Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Shanna Fold.
In our top story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced the formation of a unity government with opposition leader Benny Gantz. After a year of deadlock politics and 3 inconclusive elections, Israel finally has a government, one that will produce the largest cabinet in Israel's history. This long-awaited announcement seemed imminent after Gantz broke away from factions of the opposition Blue and White Party, which he leads. Netanyahu will continue as prime minister for the next 18 months, while Gantz, the former chief of the general staff of the Israeli army, will serve as defense minister. The government will begin to move forward with plans to declare Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, as laid out in President Trump's proposed plan for peace in the region. The Knesset has already announced a vote on the issue as soon as July 1st.
Jerusalem has slowly begun to restart the economy and has loosened some of the restrictions that were originally in place to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced last week that while the drastic measures of wearing gloves and masks in public are still a necessary requirement, communal prayer may be reinstated outdoors in groups of up to 19 people, and Israelis can resume outdoor exercise as long as the state-required precautions are taken. Israelis will not be allowed to visit grave sites of fallen soldiers on the upcoming Memorial Day or attend the National Memorial Ceremony as usual. Independence Day celebrations will also be limited to immediate family members and must be held on private property. Netanyahu called on Muslims living in Israel to exercise similar restraint as the holy month of Ramadan is underway. The Islamic Waqf, which oversees all activity on the Temple Mount, ordered that the Al-Aqsa Mosque be shuttered for Ramadan for the first time in history.
Israelis are preparing to resume some of their regular routines with the understanding that things are not returning to normal. In addition to being required to wear a mask and gloves in public, citizens will also have their temperature checked before being allowed to enter public spaces, such as grocery stores. But thanks to some highly innovative Israelis, most citizens will not be inconvenienced by this regulation at all. In fact, they won't even have to stop for this new device to check their body temperature. A former soldier from the Elite Intelligence Unit 8200 said he realized the need for temperature devices, and within 2 days, he and his team designed the Thermogate machine. It's totally automated, so employees do not have to check each individual customer entering their business. It's also efficient. Within half a second of entering the camera's field, the system measures the person's temperature and gives them their results in the form of a green or red light.
The security fence on Israel's border with Lebanon has been damaged in several locations by suspected infiltrators. The IDF notes that in one of the places that the fence was cut, there were suspicious items, including pictures of eliminated terrorists with the word revenge written in Arabic and Farsi. This serious event is just the most recent in a string of escalated hostilities from the Iranian-backed Hezbollah terror group posted up in Lebanon. The IDF delivered a stern warning that Jerusalem holds the Lebanese government responsible for actions emanating from its territory.
The hardline Islamic Republic of Iran has released footage of its new drone fleet, which it claims can reach Israel in just over an hour. Defense Minister Brigadier General Amir Hatami boasted that the unmanned aerial vehicles can fly a distance of 1,500 kilometers at speeds of up to 900 kilometers an hour. He also implied that the new UAVs have guided bomb systems and can function like cruise missiles. Israel has faced off with Iranian drones on several occasions. Forces loyal to the Ayatollah have used the T4 military base in Syria as a launching site into Israel. And Tehran has also ordered Hezbollah, its proxy army in Lebanon, to send drones towards Israel from the Golan Heights.
Iran has been hit incredibly hard by the coronavirus. The Ministry of Health in Tehran has reported that at least 5,000 people have died and more than 80,000 Iranians are infected with COVID-19, although the actual number is likely much higher than what's being reported. It is during this critical time that health officials chose to sponsor a cartoon contest on COVID-19, which quickly turned anti-Semitic. Horrific images blaming Jews, Zionists, and the United States for the spread of the disease have been published. This type of anti-Semitic behavior is commonplace in the Islamic Republic. The national director of the Anti-Defamation League recently called Iran the top state sponsor of anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial.
The mistreatment of Christians in Islamic countries has increased as the Middle East struggles with the spread of COVID-19. Christians and Jews are considered dhimmis in Muslim nations, meaning that they are inferior to their Islamic rulers. This allows Muslims to abuse, tax, and in some cases even starve the so-called infidels. Several reports of mistreatment are coming out of Pakistan, where Christians are reportedly being denied food and aid unless they convert to Islam. International Christian Concern, an NGO that advocates human rights for Christians and religious minorities, says that there have been several disturbing reports of increased harassment of Christians in Muslim countries since the coronavirus global pandemic emerged.
A new Arabic language television series about Jews in the Middle East has sparked outrage among fanatic Muslims. The program, produced by the Saudi-owned Middle East Broadcasting Center, is set to air during the prime time of Ramadan and stars a renowned Kuwaiti actress. The show, called Harun, depicts an elderly Jewish midwife and nurse in Kuwait who is outcast by her Muslim peers for being Jewish. The Hamas terror group and other critics of the series claim the show is an attempt by some Gulf states to promote normalization with Israel.
An Israeli teen basketball star has announced that he will enter the upcoming NBA draft. 19-year-old Deni Avdia told his fans that he's embarking on a new journey in which he intends to represent the state of Israel, his family, and himself with honor. He was named the most valuable player of the FIBA U20 European Championship last year, where his Israeli youth team won the gold. The 6'9" forward for the Maccabi Tel Aviv men's national team is considered a potential top 5 pick in the upcoming NBA 2020 draft.
While Israel is fighting the coronavirus on the home front, it continues to provide support to other nations in need. A central theme in Judaism is that of tikkun olam, or working to repair the world. And one Israeli nonprofit organization is doing just that. Innovation Africa has volunteers in remote villages in 10 African nations working to provide clean water as they teach villagers about hygiene to prevent the spread of the virus. One installation of a solar pump can spew out enough clean water for 10,000 people. Innovation Africa is currently working on 200 water and solar energy projects throughout the entire continent. In related news, the Israeli embassy is taking part in the repairs by donating 4 tons of food and supplies to needy communities in Rwanda.
Israeli experts have released a troubling report which reflects a drastic spike in anti-Semitism since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Jews are being blamed for the disease just as they were for the Black Plague during the Middle Ages, giving anti-Semites an excuse to act on their hatred of Jews. Scholars at Tel Aviv University noted an 18% spike in attacks against Jews last year, and they warn that anti-Semitic incitement has increased even more since the outbreak of COVID-19. There has been a troubling wave of blood libels, anti-Jewish conspiracy theories, and even calls to intentionally spread coronavirus through Jewish communities. Keren HaYesod, the official fundraising organization for the State of Israel, continues to work tirelessly to assist Jewish communities in need. The Friends of Israel division of Keren HaYesod consists of Christians from around the world who support this important organization in the critical work that's doing throughout the Jewish state. Recently, the Friends of Israel division has seen significant donations from Asian Christians wishing to help Israelis through this medical crisis. Sam Grundberg, the world chairman of Keren HaYesod, said it is moving to see supporters continue to make contributions to Israel, especially during a worldwide pandemic. Keren HaYesod serves as the global bridge connecting Jewish communities and Friends of Israel with the people of Israel.
The number of Jews worldwide has reached 14.7 million, which is about 2 million less than before the Holocaust. On the eve of World War II, there were 16.6 million Jews living throughout the world, but more than 6 million were murdered by the Nazi war machine and anti-Semitic collaborators during the Holocaust. In 1948, when Israel became a state, the Jewish population was just 11.5 million. Israel, the beacon of Jewish self-defense and self-sufficiency, has become home to the world's largest Jewish population, with more than 6.8 million Jews, accounting for 45% of world Jewry.
Sirens will sound throughout Israel on Monday night as the country collectively mourns its fallen soldiers and victims of terror attacks. Yom HaZikaron is the day that Israel sets aside to honor the memories of soldiers killed in action and citizens murdered in terrorist attacks. Memorial services will begin with a 1-minute siren that will sound as the entire country stands at attention to remember those who have paid the ultimate price for our freedom. Virtual memorial services will be held Monday evening as well as Tuesday, while the entire Jewish state observes Israel's National Day of Mourning.
After marking the pain that Israel has endured, the state is geared up to go from sadness to joy. As the sun sets on Yom HaZikaron this Tuesday night, Israelis will light up their barbecue grills in their own homes and begin to celebrate 72 years as a sovereign Jewish state. 2,000 years of exile ended when the Jewish people were restored to their homeland on the 5th day of the Hebrew month of Iyar, which coincides with May 14, 1948, on the civil calendar. The prophet Ezekiel said, "I will take you out of the nations, I will gather you from all the countries and bring you back to your land." Our generation has witnessed the ingathering of these exiles from the four corners of the earth. The state of Israel is considered a modern miracle by many and a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Zechariah prophesies that children would return to the streets of Jerusalem, and they have. And just as Isaiah said, the barren deserts of Israel have bloomed. We at Israel Now News would like to wish all of our viewers a Yom Ha'atzmaut Sameach, or Happy Israeli Independence Day. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Dr. Shimon Glick. He is Professor Emeritus at Ben-Gurion University in Beersheba. Dr. Glick, thank you for being on the show.
Pleasure.
Tell our viewers a little about how you got involved in medicine and where you're working today.
Well, I've been involved in medicine since I was 3 years old. I always wanted to be a physician. I succeeded in the United States. I was a professor of medicine in New York, moved to Israel in 1974, professor of medicine at Ben-Gurion University, also was dean and a few other jobs in the process. And I'm still involved with the medical school, and I'm talking today about the special program that we have, Medical School for International Health.
So tell us a little bit about the Medical School for International Health.
Well, we are probably the first medical school in the West that has a program, the full 4 years have involvement in international medicine, which is a very hot and new topic now.
And what's interesting about the program is it's not just for Jewish students, but also Christian students.
Oh, we have students from all over the world. We've had a lot of Christian, we've had students from almost every Christian university in the United States.
Why is it important to bring people from all over the world to Israel to learn medicine?
Well, the purpose of really is to teach people how to deal with problems with different cultures. Now today we have the coronavirus. It indicates that the world is one family. We have to learn how to deal with different cultures.
It's interesting you bring up the coronavirus that we see in China. Yeah. How is international medicine different from regular everyday medicine?
Well, you have to know the culture of a person before you can treat him. You have to know how he responds to the same disease, responds differently. You have to know that many of the illnesses are related to water supply and to many other aspects. We're not directly giving pills.
Now, after this program, do the students actually receive a medical degree?
It's a 4-year regular, they get an MD degree, so they have an MD degree plus the substantial experience in international medicine.
And are they able to practice medicine when they go back to their home countries?
Oh, of course. That's the idea. Well, many of them go into the third world, like Peace Corps and things like that. And that's our purpose, to get help to people in the world who really need it.
So how many people from how many different countries are involved in this program?
Countries from all over the world: Asia, Africa, Canada, United States, Mexico, Europe, everywhere. That's one of the beauties of the program.
What's interesting is that you're specifically reaching out to Bible-believing Christians as well. Why is it important to reach out to people who support Israel from a biblical point of view?
Well, I think Israel is the center of the world from a religious Judeo-Christian point of view. And we've had great experience with Christian students. They've enjoyed the experience and the interaction, besides the interaction with the population of Beersheba, which is also multicultural.
Beersheba is a southern city, but it seems to be on the move. What do you think is going to happen with Ben Gurion University in the next 10 years?
Ben Gurion University has got 20,000 students now. It is the most popular university in Israel among students. We have development of high tech now with a cyber center of Israel. It's a very exciting place.
They believe that the military is also moving down to Beersheba from the center.
Yeah, they're in the process. It just takes a long time in Israel.
Everything takes a long time because of the regulation. But do you see this developing in the future and becoming a real major city?
No, it's a major. It now has 200,000 people. When I got there, we had 75,000. And the skyscrapers going up. We even have traffic jams.
Yeah, you're a well-known doctor in Israel, but your son is actually a well-known politician, Yehuda Glick.
Yes.
How does it feel to be the father of someone who has such an impact with Bible-believing Christians around the world?
Well, for years, Yehuda was Professor Glick's son. Now, I'm Yehuda Glick's father, which is a nice form of pleasure.
He's taken a lead on the issue of freedom of religion on the Temple Mount.
Right.
And he paid for it with an assassination attempt
that
almost took his life. Yeah. Is that an issue that's close to your heart as well, or is this something separate?
Well, I support his activities as a human rights thing, whether it's politically good idea to do practically, he's still under threat. I'm not too happy about that.
Well, you know that Israel is known as the startup nation, and one of the areas where we're just exploding is in medical technology. Yeah. What's going to be the future of medical technology in Israel?
Well, it's beyond our belief. When I started I'm a doctor for over 60 years. And the things that we do today, I didn't dream of when I went to medical school. And what we see now, things on the horizon are just amazing. Just amazing.
One of the big buzzwords that we hear all the time in biotechnology is nanotechnology.
Yeah.
Is that something that's being developed also at Ben Gurion
University?
Yes,
Ben Gurion University is very big on nanotechnology. Not the medical school, but obviously the engineering school.
And how will that affect medicine?
I have no idea, but I'm sure that it will. They're working on all kinds of procedures and processes that involve nano.
So in the medical school specifically, then what's the most cutting edge technology that you're working with today?
Well, we're working mostly with the latest medical treatments, basically, the surgical treatments. That's what we're doing. The research on nano stuff is something that's going to come in the next decade or so. You never can predict when it's going to come.
I understand that we're one of the best countries in treating cancer today, and with cancer treatments. Is that something that is being developed as well?
Yeah, we have a huge cancer center which was just built and opened about a year ago together with Sloan Kettering Institute.
Why would people want to come to Israel to study medicine and not some other country, London, England, United States, Australia? Why Israel?
It's exciting. It's an exciting place. You have a city of which deals with Ethiopians and with Bedouin and with popular Russians. It's an exciting place, and it's also a growing place. You'd like to go to a place which is not a place of the past, technically. You'd like to go to a place which your future's in front of you, and I think that's why people like to come here, because it's exciting.
Dr. Glick, there are literally tens of millions of people watching the show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
A, if you're not going to be a medical student, just come visit us and see what we're doing. And B, if you're a potential medical student, I think we have an exciting program to offer you, which is not like any other program in the world.
Thank you, Dr. Glick, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Sam Grundwerg, World Chairman of Karen Hayesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Aliyah is the secret to the success of the modern State of Israel. Let's take a look at 4 different stories of people coming back home to Israel from around the world and see how they helped shape our great nation.
For 2,000 years, through some of the darkest chapters in history, the Jewish people have dreamt of returning home to the land of Israel. During the last century, this dream has become a reality. Millions of Jewish people from every corner of the earth have arrived in the land of their forefathers. They have brought to life Zechariah's prophecy, "I will return to Zion and dwell in Jerusalem." Many have landed on Israel's shores with little more than faith and hope in their hearts. But with the help of Keren HaYesod, they have built happy homes and successful lives. And some of these new arrivals have become the leaders and pioneers building the future of the Jewish state. Sofa Landver was born in Soviet Russia in 1949, just as the Cold War was taking its grip on the world. Any public display of Judaism could prove dangerous, but Landver was determined to reach the Jewish homeland and eventually arrive in Israel in 1979. She has since dedicated herself to public service, becoming a Knesset member in 1996. Landver is currently Minister of Aliyah and Integration, helping Jews across the world make their home in the Jewish state.
בשנת 79 הגעתי לכאן, נסגר מסך הברזל, אני זוכרת מה אני עברתי במדינה שלי. זה לא פשוט לעזוב בית ולהגיע למדינה ולהתחיל את הצעדים הראשונים ולהתקדם יחד עם משפחה, יחד עם חברים, ללמוד שפה. אבל כל בן אדם עובר את זה, ולפחות רק כאן הוא מרגיש זה הבית.
Michael Oren grew up in the freedom of New York, but he too felt the burning desire to return home to Israel, emigrating alone in 1979. Despite having no family in Israel, he fought as a paratrooper during the 1982 Lebanon War. Oren then built a glittering academic career, becoming one of Israel's leading thinkers, commentators, and authors. His prominence led Oren's appointment as Israel's ambassador to the United States in 2009, Israel's most important diplomat. Oren continues to guide Israel's future as a member of parliament today.
Israel is the nation state of the Jewish people. We need to band together to assist those who are the neediest, help absorb those who want to move to the state of Israel, to be repatriated to their ancestral homeland, and the integration process for them will be challenging. And today I'm immensely proud to be part of that continuing epic story of your involvement, of our involvement in making the Zionist dream not just a reality, but a shining reality.
Another Israeli ambassador to return to their country of birth is Belenish Zavadia. Zavadia was rescued from a remote village as a young child, arriving in Israel with no family, facing a strange new life all alone. Having graduated Hebrew University, she embarked on a diplomatic career. Zavadia has served the country across the world and incredibly returned to Ethiopia as Israel's ambassador in 2012.
הייתה לי הרגשה מעורבת. מצד אחד אני עוזבת את המשפחה שלי באתיופיה כי באתי לבד. ובצד שני כל הזמן אבא שלנו והמשפחה שלי, כל הדורות חלמו להגיע לארץ ישראל, למדינת ישראל, והחלום שלי הולך להתגשם. אני מכירה את קרן היסוד טוב מאוד, את העזרה שלהם, את התמיכה שלהם. הם מפעילים את אולפן הציון. משם למדתי את העברית הבסיסית. עם זה הלכתי לאוניברסיטה, עם זה עד עכשיו, זה מה שמשמש אותי. זה מה שבנה אותי.
From Russia, United States, and Ethiopia, Sofa Landver, Michael Oren, and Belenish Zavadia represent a true ingathering of the exiles, as envisaged in scriptures. Jeremiah's prophecy, "Your children will return to their borders," is happening before our eyes. And with your support, you can ensure that Keren HaYesod helps many more make the journey home to Israel, guaranteeing that the dream of 2,000 years continues.
Let's bless Israel together.
Now's the time for you to get involved. Assist Keren HaYesod to raise the necessary funds in order to bring Jews yearning for their homeland back to Israel. Your donation can help fulfill the biblical prophecy today. To donate and get information, visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
name is Naftali Bennett, Minister of Defense of Israel. I want to share with you a national plan to deal with corona. Right now in Israel and in many countries, we don't know exactly what the extent of the coronavirus is within our population. We don't know whether there's 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, or 20,000 corona positives in our population. That's why the first thing that we're doing right now is massive social isolation in order to buy a couple of weeks. So we're hunkering down. Most of the businesses are either shut down or in a very small operation right now. But we know that this comes at a terrible economic price for so many people. So what else are we doing, and how do we get out of this massive isolation period? What we do, A, educate the public. I think everyone in the world is doing it. I would just emphasize two things. Beyond the general social distancing education, 2 points to emphasize. One is especially protect the elder, which are way, way more vulnerable than anyone else. And number two, be aware of the touching surfaces, elevator buttons, ATM buttons, handles, etc., that we need to be aware and perhaps touch them using Kleenex or using not the finger itself, but this part of the finger, etc., etc. Three, what we're doing very well in Israel is epidemiologic investigations on a case-by-case basis. We also track down retroactively using cell phone data where the coronavirus positive has been over the past 2 weeks, and we notify everyone around them to go into self-isolation. This is good, but it's not a very accurate measure, but it's good in order to slow down the pace. The next thing that everyone has to do, and we're trying to do it now in Israel, is drastically ramp up the PCR testing. That's where you push a little stick in the nose and in the throat. Right now in Israel, we're doing about 3,000 tests a day. We want to get up to 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 a day, because that's the key to exiting the emergency form we're in and to moving into bringing back society and the economy. Because once you do that and you massively test people, you can test them at every doctor. You can test anyone who's part of a family of someone who's been checked positive. And you can gradually free up the economy. So the more you test, the more you can free up the economy.
Visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Shanna Fold, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.